The weight of his hesitation pressed against Emma's chest, making it harder to breathe. Ethan ran a hand through his hair, his fingers lingering at his temples as if trying to hold himself together. "I owe money," he finally admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "A lot of it." Emma blinked. Of all the things she had braced herself for, adultery, deception, even a double life, this was unexpected. "To who?" she demanded. Ethan exhaled sharply, leaning against the counter as if his own secrets were physically exhausting. She's not just someone He stopped, rephrasing. "She's the one who got me into this mess. Or I let her." Emma folded her arms tightly across her chest, a shield against the storm raging inside her. "You're saying this isn't about cheating? You expect me to believe that?" He flinched, as if the word itself carried a blow. "I met her at a networking event a few months ago. She promised she could double my investments, get us ahead. I was stupid. Desperate, I guess." His eyes flickered to hers, searching for something. Understanding? Forgiveness? "I took risks. I lost more than I could afford. Then I tried to fix it and... Emma's voice was ice. "And I got in over my head," he admitted. "Alyssa isn't just some investment broker. She's got ties to people who don't take losses lightly." A sharp chill ran through Emma's body, different from the heartbreak she had expected to be dealing with tonight. "Are we in danger?" Ethan swallowed hard. "I don't know." Emma turned away, gripping the edge of the sink. The betrayal had shifted, morphed into something worse than infidelity. He hadn't just lied about another woman. He had risked everything, their future, their security, without telling her. The old Ethan, the man she had married, was cautious and predictable. He was never reckless. This version of him, the one standing in their kitchen admitting to financial ruin and potential criminal ties, was a stranger. She turned back to face him. "How much do you owe?" His jaw tensed. "Enough that if I don't find a way to pay it back, we'll lose everything." Emma stared at him, a million thoughts colliding in her mind. The rational thing to do would be to leave, to walk away before she got dragged any deeper into his lies. But rationality had long since left this marriage. "You need to tell me everything," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos inside her. "No more secrets, Ethan, or I walk." His Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed, then nodded slowly. Okay. Emma didn't know if she believed him. But one thing was clear. This wasn't just about a marriage breaking apart. This was about survival. The silence between them stretched, thick with unspoken possibilities. Emma could hear the clock ticking, a slow and measured countdown to something inevitable. Ethan ran a hand over his face, looking years older in the dim kitchen light. "If I go to the police, we're done," he said, voice hoarse. "They'll find out, and they'll make us pay for it one way or another." Emma wanted to scream. Instead, she inhaled deeply, steadying herself. "Then what's your plan? Because I won't be part of this." Ethan hesitated, rubbing at the back of his neck, eyes darting to the phone on the table. "Alyssa says there's another way," he admitted. Emma's stomach twisted. "Alyssa." She spat the name like it was poison. "You're still talking to her?" "She's the only one who knows how to handle Carter. Or she's part of the setup." Emma shook her head, the pieces clicking together too easily. "Did you ever think she wanted you in this deep? That you were just another idiot they could string along?" Ethan flinched, and that was all the confirmation she needed. "Oh my God," she whispered. "You were a mark from the beginning." His fists clenched, and for the first time, anger flickered in his eyes. "I know I screwed up, Emma. You think I don't see that? But I'm trying to fix it. And right now, I need you to trust me." Emma let out a sharp, humorless laugh. "Trust you?" She took a step closer, her voice dropping. "You have lied to me every single day for months. You have risked our home, our lives, and you want me to just trust you? Ethan exhaled through his nose, shoulders slumping. Then tell me what to do. She stared at him, her heart pounding. He was right about one thing. Going to the police was dangerous, but letting him drag her into his mess was worse. There was no clean way out, no easy solution. But maybe there was a third option. Give me Alyssa's number, she said suddenly. Ethan's brow furrowed. What? You said she's the only one who knows how to deal with Carter, Emma said, her voice steady now. Fine. Then I want to talk to her. Ethan hesitated. Emma, I need to know how deep this goes. She folded her arms, meeting his gaze. And I need to hear it from her. After a long moment, Ethan pulled out his phone, scrolled, and then slid it across the table. Emma picked it up, staring at the number glowing on the screen. This was it, the point of no return. And as her fingers hovered over the call button, she realized something chilling. She wasn't entirely sure whose side she was on anymore. Emma's thumb hovered over the call button. She could feel Ethan watching her, his breath uneven, waiting to see what she would do. Alyssa, the woman whose name had nearly shattered her marriage, now holding the key to something much larger, much darker. She pressed the button. The line rang once, twice. Then a voice, smooth, confident, with an edge of amusement. Didn't expect to hear from you. Emma tightened her grip on the phone. I need to talk. Alyssa chuckled. Oh, sweetheart. We are talking. Emma's free hand curled into a fist. Ethan told me everything. I know about Carter, I know about the money, and I know you're in deeper than you're letting on. A brief silence. Then Alyssa sighed. You're a smart one. Smarter than your husband, anyway. Emma felt Ethan tense beside her. Are we in danger? She asked. Alyssa was quiet for a moment. Then, that depends. On what? On how useful you want to be. A slow, creeping chill spread through Emma's chest. She exchanged a look with Ethan, whose face had gone pale. What do you mean? Emma asked carefully. Alyssa's voice was almost playful. Carter doesn't just want money, Emma. He wants control. Ethan screwed up, sure, but he's not the only one in trouble. You're in this now, too. Emma swallowed hard. I had nothing to do with this. Doesn't matter. Alyssa's voice softened, but there was no kindness in it. You're his wife, which means your leverage. Emma's stomach twisted. So what happens now? Alyssa hummed thoughtfully. You have two choices. You can run, cut your losses and disappear, or... She let the word hang in the air, thick with implication. Or what? Emma demanded. Or you help us. Emma's grip on the phone tightened. Help you how? Alyssa exhaled. We need a new Mark, someone with deep pockets, someone we can play. Emma's pulse pounded. She knew exactly what Alyssa was asking. We need someone you can bring in, Alyssa continued. Someone who trusts you. A sick, twisting feeling settled in Emma's gut. You want me to scam someone. I want you to survive. Alyssa's voice was all business now. You and Ethan. You want Carter off your back? This is how you do it. Emma's mind spun. She thought of their friends, her colleagues. She thought of her parents, her sister, people who trusted her, people she could betray. I need time, she whispered. Alyssa chuckled. Tick-tock, sweetheart. Then the line went dead. Emma lowered the phone slowly. Ethan was staring at her, his eyes wide with something between fear and hope. What did she say? Emma looked at him, her thoughts racing. We have a choice, she said carefully. But you're not going to like it. Ethan swallowed hard. Tell me. Emma set the phone down, pressing her palms against the table to steady herself. They want me to bring someone in. Her voice felt foreign, too calm for the storm raging inside her. A new Mark. Someone I can convince to invest. Ethan's face twisted in horror. No! No way! Emma's laugh was sharp and bitter. No way? Are you kidding me? This is exactly what you did. The only difference is, I wasn't dumb enough to walk into it blind. His jaw tightened. Emma, I did this to protect us. Don't. She held up a hand, breathing heavily. You did this to yourself. And now I have to clean it up. Ethan looked away, his hands clenching into fists. There has to be another way, Emma scoffed. Like what? Running? You think Carter won't find us? Or do you want to go to the police now and hope they can protect us before these people decide we're not worth the trouble? Ethan flinched. That's what she thought. A thick silence stretched between them. The weight of the decision hung over their heads like an executioner's blade. Finally, Ethan exhaled shakily. Who would we even... Emma cut him off. I don't know yet, but it has to be someone wealthy, someone who won't suspect anything. Her stomach turned at her own words. She felt like she was becoming a different person, or maybe just a version of herself she had never met before. Ethan's Adam's apple bobbed. I hate this. Emma stared at him. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you ruined our lives. He looked away, shame washing over him. Emma straightened. Her heart pounded, but her mind was already moving ahead. If she was going to do this, she had to be smart. She had to be careful. She had to make sure, no matter what happened next, she came out on the other side, even if, it meant Ethan didn't. Ethan didn't notice the shift in Emma. Not yet. But she felt it. Something hardening inside her, something cold and sharp. He was still talking, still grasping at straws, but she wasn't listening. She was thinking, calculating. She knew one thing for certain. She wasn't going down for this. Emma, Ethan said, rubbing his face with both hands. He looked exhausted, guilty, pathetic. We can't do this. We can't pull someone else into this nightmare. Emma leaned against the counter, crossing her arms. Then what's your alternative? Hope Carter has a change of heart? Or should we just pack a couple of suitcases and run? Ethan hesitated, and that was all the answer she needed. I thought so, she murmured. She turned her back on him, staring at the darkened window above the sink. Her own reflection stared back, her jaw tight, her eyes sharp. This was survival. Now, Alyssa had given her a choice, but Emma knew better. There was never really a choice at all. If she and Ethan didn't give Carter what he wanted, there would be consequences. The kind you didn't walk away from. So who do I choose? She ran. Through names in her head. Friends, colleagues, acquaintances, someone wealthy, someone gullible, someone who trusted her. The thought made her stomach turn, but she ignored it. You do what you have to do. Ethan exhaled sharply. I'll talk to Alyssa again. Maybe there's another way. Emma turned to face him. No, his brow furrowed. No? Her voice was steady. I'll handle Alyssa. Ethan's confusion deepened, but he nodded slowly. Okay. But, Emma, I don't want this to change you. She almost laughed. It already has, but she just smiled, soft and sad. It won't. Lies. More lies. But what was one more? As Ethan sat back down, rubbing his temples, Emma picked up the phone, and for the first time since this nightmare began, she felt completely in control. Emma scrolled through her contacts, her finger hovering over names. Each one represented a potential sacrifice, a way out of the mess Ethan had created. Who do I betray to save myself? The thought made her stomach turn, but she didn't let herself dwell on it. This was about survival. Nothing more, nothing less. Then her finger stopped. Daniel Whitmore. A family friend. A businessman. He had money, a lot of it. He had always been kind to her, always believed she was smarter than she gave herself credit for. He had even offered to invest in one of her ideas years ago. Emma swallowed hard. Could she do this to him? Ethan's voice broke through her thoughts. Who are you calling? She turned to him slowly, weighing her words. You said you wanted another way, she said carefully. Maybe there is one. Ethan frowned. What do you mean? She took a deep breath. What if, instead of playing by Carter's rules, we flip this? Ethan narrowed his eyes. Flip it how? Emma hesitated. Could she trust him with what she was about to say? Or was Ethan already too far gone, too desperate to make this right the wrong way? She took a step closer, lowering her voice. What if, instead of finding a new mark for Carter, we set him up? Ethan froze. What? Emma's mind was already working through the details. Alyssa and Carter think we're desperate, that we'll do whatever they want. We use that. We make them think we're bringing in an investor, but instead we lead them into a trap. Ethan stared at her, stunned. That's insane. Emma gave a small, humorless smile. Is it? Because right now, the alternative is screwing over someone who actually trusts me. And I don't know about you, but I'm done playing their game. Ethan ran a hand through his hair, his face twisted with uncertainty. Emma, this isn't a movie. These people don't lose. She tilted her head. Maybe no one's ever tried to beat them before. A long silence passed between them. Then Ethan exhaled sharply. What's your plan? Emma turned back to her phone, her pulse racing. I make a call. Emma's fingers trembled slightly as she pulled up Daniel Whitmore's contact. She wasn't calling to betray him. Not yet. She was calling to set something in motion, something that might save her and Ethan from the ruin he had dragged them into. She pressed call. The line rang twice before Daniel's familiar, warm voice answered. Emma? Hey, this is a surprise. Everything okay? She swallowed hard, forcing a smile into her voice. Hey, Daniel. Yeah, everything's fine. Actually, I was hoping to run something by you. A business opportunity. Ethan shot her a sharp look, but she ignored him. Daniel chuckled. Well, you know I'm always interested. What kind of opportunity are we talking about? Emma leaned against the counter, gripping the phone tighter. Something high return, exclusive, but I'd rather explain in person. A brief pause. Then, all right, when? She glanced at Ethan, then back at the floor. Tomorrow night. Our place. Just us. Daniel hesitated, then said, Sounds intriguing. All right, I'm in. Emma exhaled slowly. Great. See you then? She ended the call and set the phone down carefully. Ethan was staring at her, his jaw tight. What the hell are you doing? Emma met his gaze, her voice steady. I'm getting us out. Ethan shook his head. By setting up Daniel, I thought you weren't going to... I'm not setting him up, she interrupted. I'm setting up Carter. Ethan froze. What? Emma took a breath. We make Carter believe we have his money. We make him think Daniel is the perfect target. But when Carter comes to take his cut, we turn the tables on him. Ethan looked at her like she was crazy. Emma, Carter isn't some con man running cheap scams. He's dangerous. He has people. If we try to screw him, we won't just be in debt, we'll be dead. Emma held his gaze. Then, we have to make sure he never sees it coming. Ethan swallowed hard. How? She looked down at her phone, her heart pounding. We don't just trap Carter. We make sure the police are waiting for him. Ethan let out a breath, running his hands through his hair. Jesus, you want to bait a crime boss? Emma nodded. And we make damn sure he takes the fall. Before we do. Ethan stared at her for a long time. Then slowly he sat down. This is insane. She crossed her arms. Got a better idea? He hesitated. Then finally he shook his head. Emma took a deep breath. Then let's get to work. The next 24 hours were a blur of planning, paranoia, and quiet, simmering tension. Emma barely slept. She spent the night lying awake, running through every possible outcome, every way this could go wrong. Because if it did, there would be no second chances. By morning, she had the bones of a plan. The question was, could she convince Ethan to go through with it? She found him in the kitchen, staring blankly at a cup of untouched coffee. He looked like he'd aged 10 years overnight. Emma poured herself a cup and sat across from him. "We need to talk." Ethan exhaled. "I figured." She took a sip of coffee, choosing her words carefully. "Daniel is going to think he's coming here for a business pitch. That part has to be real. You're going to lay out an investment opportunity, something that looks legitimate enough to get Carter interested." Ethan frowned. "So I'm really pitching him?" She nodded. "Just enough that it seems real. Carter needs to believe. Daniel is actually worth his time." Ethan leaned forward, rubbing his temples. "Okay, and then what?" Emma hesitated. "We give Carter a meeting time. Make him come here. But before that happens, we tip off the police." Ethan's head snapped up. "The police? Emma, do you have any idea what happens to people who rat on guys like Carter?" She met his gaze unflinching. "I'm not planning on being around long enough for that to matter." Ethan stared at her, realization dawning in his eyes. "You're planning to run." Emma's silence was answer enough. Ethan let out a humorless laugh. "So what? We let Carter walk into a trap and then just disappear?" She swallowed hard. "That's exactly what we do." Ethan shook his head, running a hand through his hair. "Jesus, Emma, where do you think we're going to go? We don't have that kind of money." She took a deep breath. "We do if we take whatever Carter was expecting to make from this." Ethan's eyes widened. "You want to rob him?" Emma gave him a cold, steady look. "Would you rather be the one getting robbed?" A long silence stretched between them. Then, Ethan leaned back in his chair, exhaling slowly. "You've really thought this through, haven't you?" She nodded. "Have you thought about what happens if we don't do this?" Ethan's jaw clenched. He didn't need to answer. They both knew. Finally, after what felt like forever, Ethan nodded. "All right," he said quietly. "Let's do it." Emma didn't. Let herself feel relief. Not yet, because the most dangerous part hadn't even begun.